She gets it, and it will affect the way that she focuses on policy, which policies she focuses on. But also, little girls and boys and, adults across this country are looking at this and saying, if she can do it, so can I. That's what happened when I became the first South Asian American woman in Congress. It's what happened when Shirley Chisholm was in Congress. I mean, we can go back. We stand on the shoulders of giants, but people need to see their futures differently. And that is part of why representation is so important. It matters on the policy front, but it matters for how we see our possibilities.
I'm sure you're going to have much more to say about that in the weeks ahead, and I look forward to hearing more about just what role models have played in your life. But I do want to pivot to policy because you are co-chair, as we said, of the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
I don't know.
It's no secret. You endorsed Bernie Sanders in January, like a number of other progressives in Congress. And now there's this question, we posed this question to Congresswoman Karen Bass earlier, who's the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, is that apparently there was this rather testy phone call earlier this week where some of the people who identify more as moderates in the Democratic Party feel that the progressives have been pushing too hard on their agenda and that the country just isn't ready for it. And they also feel that sort of pushing that hard may have cost some of the moderates their seats. And I just want to ask, what's your take on that?
Well, it just isn't accurate. I think that there are a lot of discussions we need to have about messaging and policy. But the truth is, if you look at what would have happened if progressives had stayed home, you don't need to imagine very hard. Look at 2016. This year, we turned out progressives in record numbers. Young people, black and brown folks, and immigrants in urban centers that are extremely progressive. Those are the districts where many of our most progressive members are elected from, who also, by the way, did enormous work on their campaign side to turn out those voters. And we got record turnout. That is how we won, in part, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and also Arizona and Georgia.
But was that a matter of policy, or was that a matter of distaste for President Trump?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, I think that, we've united as progressives behind Vice President, now President-elect Biden, that sounds stupid to say, and Vice President-elect Harris. Because we knew that the stakes were so high. But the truth is that, it was hard to get people out because there are a lot of young people and folks of color who feel that both parties have left them behind. And so they had to put aside their cynicism, and we had to do a lot of work to turn people out. We did that. But anybody who wants to criticize progressives now has to take on the burden then of seeing what happens if they say, here we go again. We're getting blamed again. We're not going to come out and vote. We're being told that our views aren't important to the country. Second point I want to make is every single Democrat who ran in a swing district on a policy like Medicare for All won. Every single one. And so I think we have to be very, very careful about criticizing a particular policy. The reality is, whatever you want to call it, every American believes that we should have health care. Every Democrat, believes that we should have, and most Americans believe that we should take action on climate. These are critically important issues, and putting forward a vision that is clear and unequivocal about the need to really serve every single American is important. Last point I'll say on this, look at a state like Florida. A $15 minimum wage has been considered for a long time a, quote, progressive idea. I always like to say progressives are the first to the best and most just idea. $15 minimum wage passed in Florida with a supermajority of voters. And that is a state that voted for Donald Trump. So populist policies that help working people of every race are absolutely essential. And I think that the sooner we recognize that Democrats in governance actually share a lot with working people who are voting as Republicans or independents or have moved away from the Democratic Party, want to see Democrats deliver for working people. And then we'll start to get them back.
Representative J. Paul Steve Inskeep here. Just got about 30 seconds, but I'd like to ask you, Joe Biden is going to be taking office potentially with a Republican Senate, which will severely limit what he could deliver for progressives. How do you think progressives will be able, if at all, to temper their expectations here and avoid disappointment? About 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, I think we all understand it's going to be tough, but listen, part of it depends on how Republicans act. We all have bipartisan issues that will deliver for the people. Infrastructure, $15 minimum wage, taking on COVID at the scale we need to take it on. Those are all priorities for every American, and I think that that is the thing we have to remember. If Republicans are obstructionists, then that will be a problem. But we need to get some Republicans actually working for them again with us, and then we'll sign these things into law.
That is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. She's a congresswoman for Washington's 7th Congressional District, which includes most of Seattle. She's the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Much more to come. We hope you'll stay with us. This is live special coverage from NPR News.
Support for KERA comes from you, our members, and from the Meadows Museum at SMU, presenting Alonso Berruguete, first sculptor of Renaissance Spain. The exhibition encompasses some 45 paintings, sculptures, and works on paper, and introduces the 16th century artist and designer to American audiences for the first time. On view this fall through January 10th. More information at meadowsmuseumdallas.org.
Save. But what if the biggest decision of your life comes down to a roll of the dice? The next Snap Judgment. Luck. Snap Judgment, cinema of sound, movies of the mind, storytelling with the beat. Do not miss it.
Tomorrow night at 8 on KERA 90.1.
This is special coverage from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Michelle Martin. It took days of painfully slow vote counting in several key states, but today the results are in. Joe Biden is the president-elect, and Kamala Harris is the vice president-elect of the United States. The Associated Press and other major news organizations declared that the former vice president had defeated President Trump after calling both Pennsylvania and Nevada for Biden this morning.
The facts cannot be disputed here, but the political realities are subjects of great dispute, and we're going to hear a variety of points of view in the next few minutes. We will hear from Julian Castro, a former cabinet member in the Obama administration, former presidential candidate. We will hear from a Trump protest site in Arizona. We will hear about the various legal challenges that the current president intends to pursue, or has said he intends to pursue, despite various news organizations calling the race for Joe Biden. Let's begin, though, with NPR national political correspondent Mara Liasson, who has covered the entirety of the Trump administration and administrations before. Hey there, Mara.
Hi, Steve.
And I know that you have focused these last few years on American institutions, which have faced a test here. And that is by no means a partisan statement. President Trump came in with an explicit purpose to blow things up, to change things, and that has caused enormous stress on a variety of American democratic institutions and governmental institutions. We've just watched the great American institution of elections put to the test over the last several days. How do you think American institutions are holding up?
In terms of that particular institution, the first and foremost one, it came through with flying colors. Donald Trump is going to use another great American institution, the judiciary, to press